Okay, now that we've talked about things that are ugly, I decided to throw this on. Because why not? One of my favorite Dallas jerseys. See, there's a Stars logo on it. Okay, today's news, Ryan Kessler's been cleared for contact. So that's good news if you're a Ducks fan. Kessler, there were rumors that he was going to be out all year. There were rumors maybe he was okay, he'd be good to go. Him being cleared for contact means he won't be out all year, or at the very least, they're giving him a shot, or he said, give me a shot. One way or the other, Kessler's going to be taking contact, and we'll see how that works out for him. On waivers today, interesting waiver notes. Chris Gibson of the New York Islanders. He played well last year. Could somebody maybe no? And in Vancouver, Reed Boucher, a guy who Canuck fans are very some Canuck fans are very anxious to see him at the NHL level get more of a chance, but I understand that he's a very good American Hockey League player. He's just not quite at that level that you want for an NHL player, so he doesn't quite. He's one of those tweeners. He'll end up likely having a very good career in Europe at some point, but it's just not. His game just doesn't match with anything the Canucks have going on. Now on waivers, who knows? Maybe somebody picks him up. Maybe the Devils get him back. Veleno was returned to Drummondville, so Joe Veleno was going to prove that all the teams were wrong, and he hasn't yet. Bellows was demoted by the Islanders, so Kiefer Bellows, who had a very solid preseason, is now playing for their American Hockey League team. Noah Dobson sent back down to junior. Owen Tippett sent back to junior. Tippett would have to be very disappointed with this. This is his second year out from being drafted, and I'm sure that his plan was not to get sent back to juniors. Letestu was released from his tryout, so no professional tryout success for him. And Josh Hosang gets demoted by the New York Islanders, which is interesting because, of course, Hosang is a very polarizing figure. I'm okay with him getting sent down because I think there's a lot of things Hosang has to work on. However, Islanders fans are rightfully very anxious to see his offense in a lineup for more than just 10, 15 games here and there. They want to see him get a full season at the NHL level. I don't know that it's going to happen with the Islanders. So while we talked about Hosang not getting along with previous management, Lou Lamoriello has looked at his game and said, sorry, it's not what we're looking for right now. Tonight's action, Boston's in Philly. New Jersey's playing the Rangers. Montreal's playing Toronto. Minnesota's playing Dallas. Vancouver's in LA. The Jets are playing the Flames. The Arizona Coyotes are playing Anaheim. And Colorado is playing the unstoppable in the preseason Vegas Golden Knights. And so that's your games of the night. So 8 on a Monday. That's a lot for a Monday, but it is preseason, so it doesn't really make that much of a difference. And nothing in Florida on a Monday. So a week after that 674 they got for a preseason game, first of a doubleheader, we won't have a repeat of that attendance being what it is. Again, and I've already done the video on it, so I don't really need to get into it much more. But remember, you guys just saw the video, and I've had a night to percolate on it. Anyways, doesn't matter. I don't worry about preseason attendance. Now, I wanted to talk about the Leafs blue line, because every day on TSN it seems like they're talking about another defenseman going for a spot on that blue line. Your top four are Riley, Hainsey, Gardner, and Zaitsev. None of them are going anywhere. But and one of them may end up getting dropped down to the last pairing. Absolutely, I could see it. Hainsey, I could see it. At this stage of his career, I could definitely see him being a 5-6 guy if the Toronto blue line really turns things around. And if Zaitsev gets off to a start like the way that his year ended, I could see him drop down to bottom two, but it's unlikely. But you've got Dermott, who I think we can all agree likely deserves a spot on this roster and should get it. Really shouldn't be a lot of trouble for him. Carrick is a guy who is seen as maybe being on the bubble, but he should at least get 6 or 7 spot, right? Hall's played well in preseason. Borgman, Subban, Ozhiganov, Rosen, Liljegren. Personally, I think Dermott, I honestly might look at moving Carrick if I'm Kyle Dubas. And Ozhiganov impressed me in the game that I saw with him. I'm going to see if I can get that game tonight. Because my center ice has been weird. They haven't had preseason games on there at all. And then last night, they did have Edmonton and Winnipeg, so I was able to watch that one. So, I'm not quite sure what's going on there, because the other night they had a regional TSN game, and I didn't have access to it. So, I don't know. But anyways, I don't know. Today I know they're talking about Jordan Subban going in and Subban being excited to get a chance. I don't see how Subban makes this roster. Unless his offense is so tantalizing that they're like, okay, we're going to give him a shot. The thing is, if you look at the season he had last year, he kind of regressed at the AHL level. Or maybe he didn't fit into the Kings organization at all and it just fell apart for him. I'll be interested to see what he does tonight. If I have access to that game, I will definitely watch it. And I don't watch the streams online because then that means I'm stuck at my computer for another 3 hours watching a screen when I'd rather be watching something on TV and just, relax. So it'll be interesting to see who makes it out of this group. I think Liljegren is the obvious one that you send down to the Marlies. And I would not be surprised to see Calle Rosen get sent down, but he is in the mix. And this is kind of where Toronto fans and non-Toronto fans kind of differ on things. So for Toronto fans, they look at this and they say, we've got all kinds of depth on the blue line, or blue line's fine. There are fans who will look at this list and say, there's no dominant number two. If you can look and say that Riley is your dominant number one defenseman, okay. But in most contending roster situations, there's more than one really good defenseman on the team. You'll have more than one. And just personally, I do think that the blue line takes a lot of flack. I think some of it's deserved, some of it is not. I think once Liljegren reaches his potential, he jumps into the top four. The one thing that I'm wondering too is, and I'm progressing ahead, way ahead, projecting to the end of the season, if Gardner leaves the Leafs, who replaces that offense? I mean, we can talk about Gardner in his Game 7 against Boston, sure, and he gets asked about it all the time, which I think is ridiculous. Like he hasn't thought about it enough during the summer. You got to stick a microphone in his face 4 months later. What do you think about that night you screwed up? And if Gardner leaves Toronto, you need somebody to replace that offense. Hainsey's getting to the stage where he likely shouldn't be in the top four. He should be a 5-6 guy, and on a lot of teams in the NHL, he probably would be. But it's a situation that I get where Leafs fans are coming from too. A lot of these guys look good, but which one projects to be a dominant top two defenseman? Who's going to get that defense into that? Because if Riley's the one guy that you look at and you say Morgan Riley is the blue line, we love the guy. Great, awesome. But to really take that step, most teams that win a Stanley Cup will have a couple. You won't just have one defenseman you're leaning on. You'll have a couple. Now, there are certain teams that have managed to become pretty darn good and get to a final and get close. I'm looking at the 2011 Canucks. Didn't really have that top two to speak of. But I would argue that outside of Ed Jovanovski, I don't think the Canucks have ever really had that guy on the blue line who's been a rock and that I felt really, really comfortable as the number one guy, because that's rarefied air. And if this team is going to win, if the Leafs are going to win a Stanley Cup, and I know Leaf fans are all excited, they've got Tavares, they're all excited about it, this is what's going to make or break them. And it's for that reason that I think if you go with Dermott as your number 5, Ozaganov as your number 6, so these two, and then you choose between Hall and Carrick, who you're keeping around. And just for the sake of turnover, you might look at Hall. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Carrick. Because again, if you don't have to waive somebody, it's easier to send them down. It's easier not to have to worry. I will not lose this asset if I send him down, versus I might lose this asset if I send him down because I got to put him on waivers. So it's an interesting dilemma that Dubas is going to find himself in, because as soon as next summer, if Gardner goes, you've got to replace him. And you may have to replace him on the cheap because you've got Marner and Matthews coming up, on top of whatever they're going to end up paying Nylander, and we don't know what that is yet. So there you go. Just my take on the Toronto Blue Line and the giant list of names that's on it. And I understand there's other teams that have some challenging decisions ahead of them too. You look at some of these guys who are getting sent down. There are a ton of people on waivers again today. And you waive them all together because A, you know where your roster is going to be, and B, you might be trying to sneak somebody through. There are players who get through waivers that we will look back on a year from now and say, I can't believe that guy got through waivers. And it's because a GM who might benefit from getting that player is still evaluating who they need to get rid of. And adding a body when you're not sure who you're going to get rid of first means now you may have to get rid of 2 guys you may not want to. So I totally understand why GMs wait and why GMs just kind of flood the waiver wire all at the same time. Oh, they put 5 guys on the waiver wire, we'll put 4 more. And you're trying to sneak somebody through. Gibson, to me, feels like a guy that Lou Lamoriello might be trying to get through. Gibson, to me, looked good last year. So if a team ends up giving Gibson just a shot, I honestly wouldn't mind. As a Canucks fan, would I take him over Nilsson? Probably not. And that's just me. I still think Nilsson could have a bounce-back year. I may grade the Canucks goaltending as low based on last year's stats and just on how they've looked in the last couple of years. But... and I know Nilsson only had the 1 year here, but still, I'm nervous about the Canucks goaltending, but I don't necessarily think adding Gibson would necessarily help, because then you got to waive Nilsson, and then you've got, when does Demko then not get any shot at coming up, or what ends up happening? Like if Nilsson passes through waivers, then Nilsson becomes the starter in Utica, and then you've got this whole other headache where you're trying to get Demko ice time. So it's not as easy as putting in a waiver claim. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, as always. Who's surprised to see that got cut? Who are you surprised to see is still around? And don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.